The first time I heard this story, I couldn't believe this really happened. But after I did some research, I was surprised that it sure did. That is why I've decided to bring it to you, my lovely viewers, so you could enjoy the story as well. But before I get into that story, if you're joining me for the first time and you love the true, dark and scary stories, well, you just found the right channel. Welcome to the Dark Past. We'll be bringing you one or two stories every week. So please do sit back, relax, and enjoy today's story. It was in 1946 in a small village called Aracariguama, which is 70 kilometers off Sao Paulo in Brazil. There lived a 44 years old farmer named João Prestes Ferro. João was married and had 5 children at that time. On the 4th of March 1946, there was a dance festival in the neighboring village close to João's village. João, being this quiet, easygoing guy, didn't like the dance festival, so I decided to go fishing with a friend of his. The two men set off into the woods to a lake not too far from their village. They spent the whole day there, enjoying nature. And when they were done fishing, it was getting dark, they decided to head off to their respective homes. On the way back home, João's friend took a different direction, and João was now left alone to walk all the way home. As João began his journey home, not quite long after then, he began having this feeling that he was being watched and followed by something which he couldn't see, because every now and then he would stop to look around to try and see if he could hear any voices or sounds made from whatever it was that was following him, but he couldn't see none or hear none. So his blood was pumping, he was scared. João was born and bred in that village and had stories when he was a little boy about an abandoned mine in the corner of the village which now houses a demon that comes out at night, roams the streets and the roads to hunt people, and also about an ancient snake demon called the Boitata that comes out at night, and when it comes in contact with the human, it breathes out fire on them. So João was scared, thinking to himself, is he going to be the next victim of the Boitata or the demon in the abandoned mine? So João began to run. As he was running, not quite long, he could see his village. He ran to his village, and it was in 1946. There was no electricity, no running water, no cell phone. So the village was dark and deserted because everybody has gone to the neighboring village for the dance festival. João has told his wife earlier on that day that before she left the house, she should make sure the door is locked, but she should leave the window open so when he gets home, he could have access into his house. So knowing fully well that the window wasn't locked, he would run to the window, opened it, and dived into the house, closing it behind him, having this sense of security that he was now home and safe. But still, he couldn't shake off that feeling that whatever it was that was in the woods that was following him was now at his window. So he decided to open and take a look at what it is. Probably it might be somebody trying to play a prank on him, or a jaguar, or some kind of animal. And he did open the window to take a look. Minutes later, João dashed out of his house, screaming on top of his voice, running here and there, covered in the blankets. He was running like he had no specific destination or direction, going here, going there, running like a madman. It was as if he was insane, and he had no shoes on. And back then, the roads were unpaved and rough with stones protruding out of the floor. That made him have cuts on his feet. He was bleeding from his feet. But at that moment, João wasn't thinking about his injuries on his feet. He was thinking about what was going on with him internally. So, as he was running here and there, he suddenly saw a light protruding from a house. He ran straight to the house and crashed into the house. The occupant of the house was in the kitchen. She heard this loud noise, somebody crashing into her house and screaming. She was terrified and frightened. She came out of the kitchen to find someone on the living room floor, rolling, bleeding profusely from the feet, screaming, covered in the blanket. She went close and lifted the blanket a little bit to see who it was, and she realized that it was her brother, Jao. That was Muri, Jao's sister. Muri, as well, didn't like the dance festival, so she had decided to stay home. Now she asked her brother, "What's going on? Why are you screaming? Why are you covered in a blanket?" And she realized that as she did that, she looked closely at him. She couldn't actually recognize him good because his eyes were swollen and protruding out of their sockets. She was terrified and frightened. Then she thought to herself, "Can this be my brother?" But she was like, "Okay, let me ask him what's going on." And when Jao opened his mouth to talk, she couldn't hear what he was saying. Then she crept close to him, and Jao said in a husky voice, "It burns." Then she took off the blanket, looked at his body. She couldn't see signs of burns on him. Then she asked him, "What happened?" And as she did that, waiting for Jao to respond, she realized that his face was now swollen and turning purple. So she was scared, knowing that she couldn't handle this all by herself. She dashed out of the house and ran to the neighboring village where they had a doctor and a police station. Minutes later, the doctor and the policeman arrived at Muri's house. Jao was on the floor, screaming and rolling, and the policeman asked him, "What happened to you?" Jao explained to him how he got back from his fishing trip and got to his house and something burnt him. The policeman ran to Jao's house, and on getting there, looked around and the house looked normal to him. Then he came back, and by the time he got there, he realized that Jao's chest and hands had now turned purple, and different spots of his body would swell like a bubble and burst. And right there, you could see his bones were visible. Then the doctor realized that this was something they could handle right here, that they had to take Jao to the hospital immediately. They picked up Jao, put him at the back of the truck. The policeman and Jao's sister sat in front, while the doctor sat with Jao at the back on the truck bed. It was 1946. The roads were unpaved and rough, like I said earlier. So as they rolled down the bumpy road, Jao would mourn in pain, and the doctor would sit there and watch in horror as parts of Jao's flesh came off and you could see his bones were so visible. Ozima was frightened. On getting to the hospital, after they placed Jao on the hospital bed, the doctors and the nurses were all shocked because they never seen anything like this. They didn't know how to even start administering treatment to Jao. They gave him some painkillers, and not quite long, when the painkillers took effect on Jao, reduced the pain, the doctor asked him what had happened. Then Jao narrated the story of how he came back from his fishing trip, had this feeling that something was following him all the way back to the house, and when he got home, that whatever it was now at the window, and how he had opened the window to see what it was. And he said when he opened the window, he saw standing at the window was a big dark figure. And when he saw this, he was frightened. Suddenly, out of that figure came a bright light. And he raised his hand to protect himself, and all of a sudden, the light disappeared. He fell on the floor, and minutes later, his body was on fire as if something was burning him real bad. And he was saying this, part of his cheek fell off. You could see the bone and his teeth. And not quite long, he requested for water. He was thirsty. They gave him water to drink. Half of the water fell out from the hole now in his face.
When the doctor asked Zhao that who had did this to him, Zhao looked at him in fear and said it wasn't from this world. It was like his body was decomposing while he was still alive. Initially, on the way to the hospital, the doctor described it as you frying chicken on high temperature and seeing the bone separate from the flesh. That was how disgusting and terrifying the sight was. Well, Zhao died on the 4th of March 1946. There are three theories to what had happened to Zhao. The first theory was that Zhao's family believed that it was the Botaita that had followed Zhao from the woods to the house and had killed him, while people in the village believed that it was the demon in the abandoned mine. The second theory was that the people in the neighboring village believed that it was a secret weapon from World War II. A weapon with high radiation was tested on Zhao, but it being in 1946, I don't think Brazil would have such technology at that time. While the third theory was that 30 years after Zhao died, people in different parts of Brazil claimed to have been attacked by these bright lights which had claimed their lives. They all died. Now this led to the Brazilian government evolving their military, which brought about Operation Sosa. They claim that it wasn't in any way related to any UFO invasion, though it was made official. Well, Zhao's death was ruled as cardiac arrest and burns. Well, that's the story for today. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, please do not forget to give it a like, share it, and I don't know what media you're watching this with, but you can also find me on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram and YouTube. And please do not forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my weekly uploads. Well, that would be all for today, guys. Thank you for joining me, and see you next time. Bye for now.